Okay, in the previous video, we saw the structure of long bone. Along with that, we also got the basic detail about compact bone. In this video, we are gonna see compact bone, but in detail, what's actually present in compact bone, what makes a compact bone, why would you call a compact bone, what's the characteristic feature of a compact bone, all this stuff. Okay, so in the previous lecture, under transverse section of compact bone, I have already mentioned you this. So here's your long bone. This is the shaft or the diaphysis of the long bone. You take the transverse section of this shaft or diaphysis and look at it. It would look something like this. So there's your outermost covering, which is known as periosteum, outermost covering, and then the innermost covering, which is known as endosteum. Inside endosteum, there's a cavity, which is known as bone marrow cavity, which is filled with bone marrow, and the bone marrow that fills up this bone marrow cavity is yellow bone marrow in case of diaphysis. In between periosteum, which is the outer layer, and endosteum, which is the inner layer, there's your compact bone. This is what we're going to see today. So compact bone consists of vertical canals named haversian canals. These haversian canals, they help to supply blood vessels and nerves to bone cells. And then there are horizontal canals that connect these vertical canals, which are known as Volkmann canal. Okay, so compact bone is the region between endosteum and periosteum. Let's take a slice of what I have shown here. A slice of this compact bone. Okay. And then zoom it under a microscope. It would look something like this. Upon observing a part or a slice of compact bone under a normal microscope, it looks something like this. So there's your outer layer, right? And then there's your inner layer, right? And then there's your bone marrow cavity. This bone marrow cavity is filled with yellow bone marrow. The outer layer, the upper layer, it's made up of periosteum. What's periosteum? Okay, peri means around or periphery, and osteum means bone. So it's a layer that's found around bone. That's why called periosteum. And it's there for protection. And I've already mentioned what helps in protection. White fibrous connective tissue. Why? Because it provides tensile strength. That's why periosteum is made up of white fibrous connective tissue. Then there's your endosteum, which surrounds the yellow bone marrow. And this endosteum is made up of reticular connective tissue. Alright. Between the periosteum and the endosteum, right? Between these two, there's your compact bone. And compact bone contains haversian canals. So in the diagram, I'm gonna show few of the pores of these haversian canals because I have taken the transverse section. And in haversian canals are your vertical canals. So only the pore of these canals will be visible in a transverse section. So here are few pores of haversian canal. Surrounding this haversian canal, just concentrate at one haversian canal. Surrounding this particular haversian canal, there are your bone cells or osteocytes, where osteo means bone and cyte means cells. So bone cells, which are star-shaped. But these cells are not just spread around a haversian canal. They are present in circular rings, and these circular rings are concentric. That is, here's your haversian canal. Around this haversian canal, there's your circular ring in which osteocytes are arranged. Then there's another circular ring which encircles the smaller circular ring in which osteocytes are arranged. And then there's again a larger ring which encircles the smaller ring in which osteocytes are arranged. This is what it looks like under a normal microscope, and we call this particular structure, that is haversian canal surrounded by osteocytes in concentric circles, we call this haversian system or osteon. But in reality, this is not how the cells are present. They are present in a diagram something like this, which I'm gonna show right now. Okay, so there's your haversian canal in the middle. Surrounding this haversian canal, there are cells, and we know that cells are present on matrix, and the matrix present in bone is bony because it's compact. However, in case of compact bone, the bony matrix is present in a peculiar way, in a characteristic format. And what is that? Suppose there's a pipe coming out of the ground, right? There's a pipe that comes out of the ground. Then, by making concentric circles around this pipe, you dig those circles. You remove this soil, and then you get concentric circles of these parts or segments where soil is not present, and they have been bordered maybe with a cardboard or something. And in one circle, fill it up with cement. In other circle, fill it up with cement. And then finally, when the cement hardens, remove the cardboard border. What do you get? You get the pipe in the middle, which is encircled by concentric rings of this cement. Similarly, imagine haversian canal instead of the pipe, and surrounding this haversian canal, instead of concentric rings of cement, there's concentric rings of matrix. And these concentric rings of matrix are known as concentric lamella. Inside each concentric lamella, there's presence of empty spaces. These empty spaces are irregular in shape. There are several empty spaces in a particular concentric lamella. And these empty spaces, irregular empty spaces, are connected to one another with the help of a thinner canal, which is known as canaliculi. And the empty spaces themselves are known as lacuna. Let me show you this in a zoomed figure. So there's your lacuna, or the empty space which is irregular shaped. There's your other lacuna, or empty space which is irregularly shaped, and these two lacuna are connected with each other with the help of very thin canal known as canaliculi, and these two lacuna are again connected to other lacuna with the help of same canaliculi. Okay, now inside each lacuna there's the presence of osteocyte, which is a star-shaped cell, or the star-shaped bone cell. So there's osteocyte in one lacuna, there's one osteocyte in other lacuna. And these two osteocytes, the same way the lacuna are connected with each other with the help of canaliculi, these two osteocytes are also connected with each other with the help of protoplasm. Let me show you in the bigger diagram. So there's your one single osteocyte in one lacuna, then there's your another osteocyte in another lacuna, and these two osteocytes, they are together or attached together with the help of protoplasm. Whew. And this as a whole forms your osteon or haversian system. What's the significance? Haversian system is the characteristic feature of bony compact bone. That is, if you had to differentiate between compact bone and spongy bone, this is one very important way. Haversian system or osteon is only and only found in compact bone and not in spongy bone. Okay, now let's look at the bigger diagram. So there's your multiple osteon or haversian system. Around each haversian canal, there's your haversian system. So in this diagram, there are 3 haversian systems. And in these haversian system, or in these osteon, surrounding each haversian canal are your concentric lamella, just the way I have shown in the diagram. But concentric lamella are not the only lamina present. There are other lamina as well, such as. So, around the circumference, what do I mean? So, there's the transverse section of compact bone, right? The outer circle is periosteum. The inner circle is endosteum. Inside periosteum and outside endosteum, along the circumference of both the circles, there's the presence of one more lamella, which is known as circumferential lamella, given from the location. The name has been given from its location. And then again, there are multiple osteon, right? I've drawn 3, right? In between these osteon, or in between these concentric lamella, there is presence of lamella as well. Since these lamella are present in the interstices, they are known as interstitial lamella. So there you go, 3 types of lamella. You have the concentric lamella, present in concentric circles, circumferential lamella present at the circumference, and interstitial lamella present at the interstices found between osteon or haversian systems. Okay, one more thing. Under periosteum, there's a layer of osteoblast. What are osteoblast cells? I've already mentioned bone blast precursor cells. So osteoblast cells are those cells that form osteocytes. So that's your outer layer of osteoblast cells. Surrounding the endosteum, there's also a layer of osteoblast cells, and that's your inner layer of osteoblast cells. So the outer layer of osteoblast cells forms osteocytes from upside or upper surface, and the inner layer of osteoblast also forms osteocyte from lower surface. That is, osteocytes are being formed from both directions of the bone. That means the growth of the bone takes place from both directions. That means growth in bone is bidirectional. And I guess that is more than enough for your CEE and NEET under the topic of compact bone. Let me revise it for you. Where do you find compact bone? You'll find it in the diaphysis of the long bone. Take the transverse section of the diaphysis of the long bone. You see something like this. There's the outer cover periosteum, inner cover endosteum, and middle there's your yellow bone marrow. In between periosteum and endosteum, or encircling this yellow bone marrow, is the compact bone. Compact bone consists of haversian canals, which are the vertical canals that carry your blood vessels and nerves, and these vertical canals are connected to one another with the help of Boxman canal. Let's zoom in into a small slice of this compact bone. You see something like this. There's the outer protective covering or periosteum, which is made up of white fibrous connective tissue. There's the inner layer called endosteum, which is made up of reticular connective tissue. Then there's your yellow bone marrow, which is encircled by endosteum. In between periosteum and endosteum, there's your compact bone, which consists of haversian canals. Encircling these haversian canals are concentric rings of osteocytes. Upon looking at it carefully, we find that the haversian canal is indeed encircled by concentric lamella. Inside each concentric lamella, there are irregular empty spaces known as lacuna, which are connected to one another with the help of canaliculi. Inside this lacuna, there is osteocyte, and one osteocyte is connected with another osteocyte with the help of protoplasm. So under a normal microscope, you don't see concentric lamella. Instead, you see these osteocytes present in circles. So we imagine that these osteocytes are actually encircling these haversian canals. Instead, along with the concentric lamella, you find interstitial lamella in between these concentric lamella and circumferential lamella. At the circumference of periosteum and endosteum, under periosteum and above endosteum, there are layers of osteoblast that gives rise to osteocytes. Since they give rise to osteocytes from both surfaces, the growth of bone is bidirectional.